Hello and welcome to the Very Best Podcast. I'm
Yay!
Crooks.
And I'm Strawberry! Yay!
And
We
this
are.
is the finale part 1 podcast. We're going to do the rest of the season up to the final 3. And I just noticed something that I just noticed this now that our Strawberry Shortcake theme song is from the Wild Brain YouTube channel, and those are the people that went to go pitch to in Toronto.
They composed a song.
I think they do Strawberry Shortcake there and a bunch of like little kid shows, but I just noticed it says Wild Brain. I was like, oh yeah, I saw those people, I met those people, I pitched to them.
That's such a coincidence. You should tell them that we're playing their song illegally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get canceled. Oh,
Um.
so
So the what a season! This is the wrap up of a really great season of Survivor. What do you think, Straw? Did you hate this season?
the thing is we haven't had a season in a while where there has been probably like five or more like really excellent players, like players that give the org the all their heart. Like, I feel like the last time we had this was with Fred and Rachel and Nova. Like, I feel like that's the last time we had such a cast full of people that are playing hard, want to win, giving it their all. And the thing too is that all the good players are good players, but they're good players in different ways. Like, we had Dongush, which was a really excellent player, but he is the polar opposite of Trav. We have Trav and Dongush are both very strategic. They know, and they're very sociable. They could talk you into buying the Brooklyn Bridge. Is that an expression? But they are total opposites, where Dongush will lie about his dead grandmother to win Survivor, and Trav will go down with his ship to make sure that Max gets to the end with him. Like, two polar opposites. Not, I mean, one, well, obviously in the Survivor, one is better than the other because Dongush is no longer in the game and Trav still is, but they're like polar opposites, but still excellent players.
Yes, and
I mean, Scott is probably like, he's probably like the middle. Like, we've got Dongush, Scott, and Trav. Like, Scott is the happy medium between I'll sell my soul and lie to you, Dongush winning Survivor, and Trav being like, it's me or you, Max, or they're voting me out. So we have Scott, which is kind of like the happy medium. He lies a little bit, he plays people a little bit, but he's not going to go home for his friend.
yeah, I think I might like this season more than season 9, but I think it's hard to tell because even though these two seasons are very similar, kind of in reverse, because season 9, whatever his name, what was his name?
Nova?
Vin, or
Nova?
who used to do the podcast with us?
Jacob?
Alton.
Sultan.
And Zoltan would say that season 9 had the best pre-merge he ever seen in an org. Like, I feel like the first half of season 9 was really good, and the first half of the merge. Then once Final 8 ended, knew exactly
Yes.
who was getting voted out
Yes.
and when for the rest
And we
of
knew
the
who was
season,
going to, and we knew who was going to win. Soon
And
as
this
Fred went
season,
home, we knew who was going to
let me
win, and we
finish.
knew
Let
Fred
me
was going.
finish my.
No, we're
Let me
saying the
finish
same
my
thing.
thought.
I can talk to.
Let
All
me
right.
finish my thought.
Okay.
Season, um, was the reverse where I feel like some of the pre-merge votes there was a few like unanimous la di da votes, and then the last half super what's going to happen and there's a blind side around every corner where we kind of had that for the first half of last season. So it's kind of hard to tell because one has an action packed first half and this one has an action packed last half.
Are you trying to say pre-merge wasn't action packed? We had Rocks and Wyatt going home. We had a misplayed fire idol.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. But like besides that, like
the
it's
only vote
there was
that
like
was unanimous was the
there was
Eric
only
vote.
like there there was more than that last time. Like I do feel like there was a lot of votes, like when we did the podcast, there was like sometimes it'd be like 3 or 4 rounds and you would say like not a whole lot interesting happened and then we had to like group them all into one podcast. So there were stretches where it was just like, oh, we're voting out the inactive player, oh Alice gets voted out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I probably should have kept it 21 and, didn't cast a few people. But you
Because
know
yeah, we
what?
had we had Good, Goose, Mike, Alice, and Terry, and then the very first exciting vote we kind of had was when Trav flipped and voted out Ty.
Yeah.
Then we had Johannes, who was pretty much unanimous. Wyatt got rocked out. That was exciting. Went out, who was inactive, and then Reese got banned, and that was the pre-merge. So we really only had about 2 exciting moments in the pre-merge. Not that the pre-merge was bad. I think the pre-merge was actually good. A lot of the votes weren't exciting, but the players were exciting. Like they were still active, the ones that stayed, and so we did have a lot to talk about because they were always planning for the future, and it really paid off in the merge. As far sometimes the game is exciting, but the vote outs aren't as exciting. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, I totally agree with that part of it. Oh, so
And
let's see.
we have to start talking about the final 5 round, right, Straw?
Yeah, so we'll start off by talking about the challenge. My final five challenge is always spot the difference, where I every episode I come up with this episode graphic that introduces you to episode 1 and episode 2, and they've got cute little strawberry shortcakes and huckleberry pies, and everyone sees it in their confessional and they're like, oh, what's that crap in my confessional? But when it comes to Final Five, I take like 10 of them and I make little changes to them. And I do not tell them. And then when I tell them the challenge, I'm like, oh, it's spot the difference. And they think they'll be given 2 pictures. And when they put in the command and they're like, what are these things? Where's the original photo? And then somebody who hasn't been in their CFs all season probably won't even know that's where they can find them. So, and then people think, like, I am tricky with these. I mean, there was some spot the differences that nobody could find that were a little mean. Some of the things, like, I'm like, how did you miss that? Like, there was one, like, I don't know. So I feel like Log and Max and SEren just kind of flew through it. They didn't take their time. They flew through it. And then I really thought, like I keep calling Max Trav. When he knows he has to win immunity, he wins immunity. Like he'll sit there for hours and find every little thing. He will put the time in that he has to win. But Scott, I really thought, like a lawyer, isn't their whole thing is to find little indiscrepancies? But maybe he has old eyes and couldn't find it. Oh, sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to say you had old eyes. But, like maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was. Well, actually, Scott was the one that he said old eyes with my strawberry shortcake memory. So I was just kind of going with that.
That's kind of funny. Um, um,
What's kind of funny?
actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, like Scott, like even though he's on the bottom, he could very well win the season because I think out of the people left, he's the best at challenges.
Scott is or Trav?
Scott is better than Trav, I think. Out of the final five left.
Yes, yes, but I
Didn't
do.
work out this time, but like there was like
I do
Scott
feel
winning two more
Trav's.
immunity. If Scott won the last two immunity challenges and got to the final three, like I wouldn't have been surprised. Like I feel like that is like a thing that could have happened.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm almost thinking that this challenge might have been a more like time consuming challenge would make it easier for, Trav that has more time because he's in college than Scott who has a job as a lawyer and, has 9 kids. But I don't know anybody's home life and stuff, but I do think that Trav.
Is Trav's college out for the term? Because my college is out for the term, but maybe in the U.S. it goes on for longer.
I don't know. I think it's right around this time, so he might have still been in school. But what we're trying to get around to saying is Trav ended up winning. And Scott really, really, really needed this win. He knew he was going home if he didn't win, but I will say this about Scott: he did not give up. And when the votes came down, like Cooks and I were like, "What?" Remember? Oh, we were
Oh,
like,
you were like, you messaged me and I didn't look for a while because I can't remember what I was doing. I was visiting family, but I was like, you messaged me and you were like, Scott's going to survive the vote. And I didn't look at anything. I'm like, no way.
yes, yes. I want to bring up there. I wonder if I deleted it by accident because I did have to get rid of some stuff. But
I
so
think that like, what Scott like? Oh, I don't know if there's probably other things to mention that you could mention, but my perspective, a big part of what Scott is relying on to make it through this vote, the rumor about him having an idol, right?
yes, yes.
And
Hold
you know
on.
what's funny? I didn't even know this until yesterday, or I forgot it. But I did some. I was going back through. Like I was going back through the season, like going deep, um, looking back a few rounds. And you know how the fake idol rumor started?
So what happened was when Chase went, everybody kind of knew, and I don't remember how, but everybody knew that Chase went home with Scott's idol and
Yeah.
that Scott gave it to him. Trav had said that he didn't believe it because um he didn't believe it because I think it had to do with Don Goose using the swap on Squeak. He thought that there was some kind of, that the three, that Squeak, Don Goose, and Scott were all kind of working together. They had the idol. Um, so they really tried last vote when Don Goose went home to kind of like hint that Scott had the idol. And Scott really did say to Don Goosh, like, this is probably the only thing that can save us.
Yep, I'll
So,
tell you how it started. It was Max. Um, Max around final. 7 or 8, made up a lie about Scott telling him that he had an idol to other players to put a target on Scott's back and
Oh, yeah. I do remember him saying that.
and
I do.
then people believed Max and it just grew from there, and that's how the whole thing. People are like, "Oh," people start going to people just start talking about it. Oh yeah, like Scott has an idol or something, and Scott was like, "Oh, I might." Like he didn't disagree. He was just like, "Yeah, possibly, yeah."
And then Max did say something. It's probably the same comment that you're reading, that it's really biting him in the ass now, because now people are wondering if Scott does have the idol. So then in the tribal chat, Trav pretty much says word for word what you always say when somebody says they have an idol at Final Five. What do you always say? Do you remember?
Are you telling everybody?
Why are you telling everybody? If you have an idol, this is your last time to use it. Just use it. And
Yeah.
Scott, never really says he has an idol, but he's just kind of like, well, if you don't think I have an idol, we'll just see after the votes. And Trav was like, nope, you do not have an idol. He told everybody that, he's 100% sure that Scott does not have the idol. And this is a thing, too,
I
when you...
mentioned this before, but Trav, Final Five was in the exact same position I was when I won, where Scott was like SEren, and I was like Trav. So Scott, who was like in a power position all game, loses their control when one of their closest allies gets taken out by me at Final Six. All they can do is lie about having an idol at Final Five or win immunity, and they're the immunity beast. However, I/Trav beat them at immunity at the Final Five. They start saying that they have an idol, to which I'm like, I have an idol, just it. And I voted them out, So
Mhm.
when I was watching this, I was like, this is like deja vu. And I went on to win. And so I was watching this and I was like, this is a good omen for Trav if history is repeating itself.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say too is we have a huge, I know we shouldn't talk about ages, and we've had a big fight in jury chat about ages, but Scott is 53. Squeak is 14. I feel like Scott manipulated, which you can do in the game of Survivor. That's the game they're playing. But he manipulated Log into believing that the idol was real, and manipulated Log to vote. No, Log, not Log. Who's the other guy in here? Squeak. Oh. So he manipulated Squeak into voting Max.
I feel like there's a lot of layers to that because if you don't remember, basically, Trav hasn't been the nicest to Squeak the last few rounds, and Squeak has kind of been done with working with them before, so there's a few discrepancies there where
Well, every
strategy was
time.
a part of it, but Squeak doesn't like Trav. You know what I mean? Trav has kind of treated Squeak poorly for a little bit, so it makes a little bit of sense emotionally that he wouldn't side with Trav's side.
But the thing is the reason why Trav voted for Squeak was ultimately Don Goosh's and Scott's fault. But
Yeah.
but oh, this is another thing too, because Scott kept saying, and this is probably I think would have worked maybe more than a fake idol is that for some reason we know we know Trav and Max are a duo. They're not hiding it. But Squeet and SEren are the other duo. So Scott keeps saying you don't want to go to the end with two duos. So I feel like Squeet was like, yeah, I don't want to go to the end with two duos because, well, no, because he was one of the duos. I don't know. Where
Yeah.
was I
You know
going with
what,
this?
Scott? You know what Scott should have done instead of going around like, "Oh, I might have an idol. Oh, I might have an idol." Should have done number counting thing that I said. Not talk about idols at all. Not even mention it. Never say it. And just go into the tribe chat and send 1,000 messages. Start at number 1,000 and count backwards each message, and not say anything about it.
I want to see if that works at one point. Oh,
Hey, okay. Um, if I
I
play All Stars, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna say it anyway because I don't think anybody's gonna watch this. But let's see. I want somebody else to try that. Like I thought of that as like that could be fun because people will be like, why are they doing that? Like especially if it takes like longer than you spend like 2 hours doing it. People will be like, why would they be spending 2 hours doing that? They must be doing it to get some sort of advantage.
oh, this is where I was going with the Squeet thing. So Squeet doesn't want to go to the end with the duo because he knows that if he goes to the end with Max and Trav, that if he doesn't win immunity, he's in trouble. So he's thinking that if he can get rid of Max, because Trav won immunity, Squeet and Scott could work together and he'd have a better chance of getting to the end. So he was trying to get SEren to vote with him for Max, but SEren went to sleep. But I'm pretty sure SEren, she said a few times in her CFs that she really hopes that Trav and Max bring her to FTC. But like, I feel like, and maybe you can answer this, Cooks. Like, should you ever count on somebody bringing you to FTC?
I feel
No,
like I feel like Saren wasn't saying that.
she
Um,
did say, she said those
this
exact
round,
words.
this round, what Saren was saying, at least to like Squeet, was that she didn't want Scott or Trav to be in the final three with them because she felt like they would both beat them. That's what she was saying all this round to Squeet over and over and over again.
Hmm. But maybe it was after the vote and after Scott went home that she
Yeah,
changed her
Squeet.
tune.
Well, we'll get to that, but that's what she was saying the whole time during the final five that she wants to vote out Scott and then at the final four vote out Trav, which is perfect, which is like what she should be doing.
Yes, but I feel
Right?
like she might have waited too late because a duo at final five is deadly.
Thing is, there's nothing she could do about it because if she thinks if Trav or Scott in her mind, if one of them gets to the end, they win. Final five, Trav has immunity. You could get rid of Trav's duo Max, but by doing that, you let Scott stay in the game to the final four. Then the final four, you can only vote out one of them, meaning that either Trav or Scott are going to win the season. So SEren did her most optimal play this round, voting out Scott because her best chance of winning from her point of view this round, if what she's saying is correct, is to vote out Scott and then at best get like Squee or her to go against Fire with Trav, hopefully, and hopefully Trav loses, and then SEren can get to the end without Scott or Trav. That's basically SEren's only way to do that at this point.
So with this vote, she is saying that first she kind of thought that maybe Scott had a idol and was trying to like make this whole elaborate plan. But then all of a sudden she's like, no, forget it. He doesn't have it. And she goes, I'm going Scott. I don't think he has an idol, and I don't want to sit with him in final three. I prefer my chances with Trav and Max. I just want to win final four immunity. So I feel like she chose to vote out Scott because she knew that if Scott got to the end, there was no way of her winning. And she had a better chance of Trav and Max maybe taking her if she didn't win immunity. So I think that voting out Scott was smart for SEren. I don't know why Squeak voted for Max, except that Scott, I mean, there was a couple comments that Scott made, like, I played Squeak hard. Don't, kind of saying, don't feel bad, Squeak. This is what I do for a living. But Squeak felt really bad. He voted for Max and he was duped by Scott.
And this round at Tribal Council, there was some great play by Trav that was pure villain and pure dirty, revolving Squeak, because Squeak made this mistake. Trav publicly bullied Squeak and raked them over the coals on Tribal Chat. And you're like, maybe bullying a child is not something you should do in front of the jury. But then you got played to your jury and you realize, oh my god, this jury loves bullying children. He loves them for it.
That comes later, Cooks.
Yeah, this jury loves bullying children. Chase and everybody, they were on the jury. They were like, Trav is spitting facts. I love that he's making Squeak so upset. I really am rooting for Trav right now. And that's good social play when you know what the jury wants and what they like. And you think, like, Squeak doesn't like Trav. Maybe. Or I think they kind of, like, do have some heart-to-heart moments in one-on-ones. But Squeak does get pissed off at Trav for the last few rounds, and rightfully so. What Trav is doing here, he got Squeak himself in Tribal Chat, based on these comments, to say, quote-unquote, to Squeak's words, after Scott had a part of it too, but he laughed and Trav kept going with it. Squeak himself said in front of the jury, yeah, I'm dumb as shit. I made a huge mistake I made. And in front of the jury, you don't want to say that. And it would be bad if Trav was going to put Squeak on the jury because you're losing a jury vote. But if you don't put them on the jury, then you're sitting next to somebody who you made look bad in front of the jury and that you coached them into basically admitting, saying all these, like, you don't want to say stuff like that in front about your game to the jury. Like, Trav got that out of him to make it look like Squeak had, like, a decent, like, Squeak had a few supporters on the jury, like Nathan and stuff. So Squeak had, like, this whole underdog game, and they had the most votes cast against them this season and made it very far, and their game has been a roller coaster. That right there cut down Squeak's game a lot. And what Trav was really doing is he's making himself look a lot better than Squeak in order to win. And he's preparing for that. And with other juries, this wouldn't work as well. With this jury, who likes that sort of thing, it did work well.
Yeah, and I feel like did Trav really needed to point all that out? Like, sometimes I feel like he would have been better if he just didn't say anything, because everybody in jury is like, why the hell did Squeak vote for Max? You know what I mean? So maybe he didn't have to say all that. Maybe he would have been better off just letting them come
It
to the
didn't hurt.
conclusion.
It didn't.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
didn't
you're
hurt
right.
him though.
You're right.
It didn't hurt him, but it could be debatable if it helped him. I do think it helped him. Not that like it was a difference between Trav beating Squeed or not in a final three scenario or not. I in Survivor, you don't let your opposition get any slack. You take any opportunity to raise yourself above them, even if it's just the smallest thing like this, and that's what Trav was doing here.
Yeah. All right. So Scott goes
Yep,
home.
in a 3-2 vote, and SEren was doing this whole thing this round where they were trying to do like a 2-2-1 vote for some reason.
Well, because of the
But
idol, she
yeah,
kind of thought that if there was an idol,
which
they couldn't
like
do a revote.
it doesn't make sense even if there is an idol because it's like why? Like what are you? I don't understand the concept. That was one of the things where you were telling me about it. I was like, I don't get it. Like it's not like splitting the votes or anything. Like our
Wait,
plan
it's
was
5, so then there would be. So if someone had an
so
idol, the one with
from
two votes would have gone home. It wouldn't have tied, and there wouldn't have been a revote. Yeah, I don't know.
which it makes no sense. I mean, like it doesn't hurt, but it doesn't help. It was one of those weird things where it's like there's no reason to tie the vote because in her mind she was like, oh, it'll be 2 votes Scott, 2 votes Squeak.
All right,
I'll
yeah,
throw my vote on Max.
she goes, I'm going to get Trav and Max to vote Scott. And Squeet and Scott will probably vote Max. And then I can vote Squeet to make it a tie to see if there's an idol. And if there is, Max
But
goes
there's
home.
which makes no sense because if you just voted for Scott and he played him idol, Max still goes home, so it'd be exactly the same. But the only difference here is if Scott doesn't have an idol, Max will go into the next round being like, SEren, you voted for me. What the hell? That's the only difference.
I think what. I don't know what she was thinking. I think she was thinking that if she voted Squeet, that maybe Max and Trav would trust her more. I don't know. I don't know what she was thinking there. But Scott went to jury. Everyone welcomed him with open arms, um, which is kind of true because everybody really thought that Scott made the played the best game. I mean, Chase might have been a little mad at him, but really, Scott has not made any enemies except for I. I think Chase blamed that all on Don Goose. So I think that Scott went to jury and he
Yeah,
was everybody's hero.
Chase was rooting for Scott the most at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then we go. Oh, so we're gonna talk about our
And the
crowns.
thing
I
about
guess
Scott, yeah,
I'm
played an
gonna give.
overall great game, and Scott didn't like. The thing about Scott is they didn't really make any like real mistakes. It was Dongush that sunk Scott's game. Like Scott didn't sink his own game. Like when Dongush decided to flip on the Brandon vote, that's when Scott's game ended. So I really don't think that like Scott really screwed up his game or anything. I feel like Dongush was the one that threw it away, and I think Scott played like a solid game all around, basically.
I feel like Scott is a little more conservative than Dongush, and I feel like if Dongush wasn't there, he wouldn't have taken out Chase so early. I think Scott would have waited and not taken him out so early. And I think the game would have been much different if there wasn't Dongush with him, and he would have played a much better game. Um, the thing with Scott too
Yeah,
is
Dongush was one that really hurt Scott's game, so I agree.
yes, and I do feel like he does play a lot of orgs, and I feel like he does. Like, I feel like this is his first org where he's like, I'm going to play the loyal Scott, and the loyal Scott got voted out. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's probably played, the strategic, everything. All right, hold on. What, I'm doing my podcast.
The cats don't have their names on their collars anymore.
And yeah.
Either.
Oh, I'll do that right afterwards, okay? Oh, sorry, I got interrupted for a second. So I feel like I'm going to give my crown to Scott, even though Scott went home, because I feel like he played the best. I feel like he used what he had, and he tried every trick in the book, but not too many tricks, because I feel like I remember when I forget who. Oh, I think it was Silver. Remember when she was playing and she's like, I'm about to get voted out, and she just like threw everything against the wall. I'll try this, and I'll try that, and I'll try this, and then nothing stuck, and she got voted out. So at least he was smart and like, okay, I will throw this at the wall and throw this at the wall and see if anything sticks, and nothing sticks. He goes home, but he deserves the crown of this episode, and don't you dare give it to anybody else, Cooks.
I'm going to give it to someone else.
No!
And I don't feel bad about it either. I don't think Scott did okay-ish this round, but and points for Scott for trying, but it didn't work out. And it didn't work out because he wasn't convincing with his idol. He tried, and that's what's cool about it. Like, he didn't just give up, but he could have done it better. And the way he did it was kind of sloppy. And I'm going to give it to Trav for that social maneuvering of cutting down Squee in front of the jury and making them look worse.
All right, but I don't agree.
Trav being the one that was like, "There's 100% no way Scott has an idol," and getting other people on board with that when they were like, when SEren and other people were a little bit more hesitant, Trav was like, "There's no way in hell," and getting them on board with that.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've talked a lot about
also,
Scott.
Trav was the one that beat Scott the immunity challenge, and Scott was the immunity beast, and Scott came in second, so Scott would have won again if it wasn't for Trav. So Trav definitely gets the crown here.
Oh, fine. I think I don't know if we have to talk much about Scott as a player. I think we've talked about him a lot.
I already gave my opinions on Scott as a player.
Yeah, I feel I did too. So maybe we can just go to our next episode where it is all season trivia. I did a thing where I had members of the jury write a little bit something about the players, and they had to guess who said it about them. I will say that everyone did terribly. Very terribly. And then there was a part where they had to... I did a thing with numbers, and every answer was a number. So let's say, I think one was like, what was the number of votes that somebody went home with that was the highest? And it was 10 because Eric went home with 10 votes. So they had to come up with the number.
Wait. So whoever went home with the most votes in one tribal council?
I forget exactly how I worded it. Oh, so I have to look it up. I think I have
in one tribal council or overall?
Let's see exactly how I worded it. Oh, okay. Hold on. So the questions were all numbers. I have to scroll up. Sorry, guys. Talk amongst yourselves while I scroll up. All right.
It's amongst myself. I'm the only other person here.
Oh, I know. Oh. Well, I got to put in the command. Hold on. I don't know this keyboard, and I don't know where the exclamation mark is. The exclamation mark is in the same spot. Oh, all right, it's coming. All right, so the question was the person voted out this tribal went home with the most votes in a tribal. They
Okay,
had
so just
how
one tribal.
so they had how many votes? So that was 10 because it was Eric. And then I said the
Yeah,
amount of and
I
the
think
amount
that's
of
right.
yep, the amount of stamina that Brandon won. If it's not right, I don't want to know about it because they've already been voted out. It's already been scored. So the amount of stamina that Brandon won in the stamina Lollapalooza. Then there was like questions about like how much did the limo cost and the tea party. So they were all numbers. So let's say we entered number 2. The correct answer is 10, but I think it's 8. Then you get 2 points because you're 2 points off. And then it's like you score it like golf, and whoever has the least amount of no, whoever has the least amount of
Thing about
numbers
that
win.
question is that thing about that first question is that it's super easy because I always put in the descriptions of the tribal chats how many votes vote count is for each tribal, so they could just look and see.
They still got it wrong, Cooks. These are org players, and some
Yeah,
of
they're
them they,
dumb.
and some of
It's
them
like
they
yeah,
didn't
it was
have.
like that's like when they get the question wrong at school and it's like an open book test. It's like, are you kidding? It's like,
I mean, SEren got 119 points. And Max got 69 points.
and the funny thing is, you send out like a vote chart every round in their confessional. So yeah, they should be embarrassed if they got the question wrong.
So number 2, okay, so number 2, everyone got it right because they could look it up. So number 3 was a little more hard because they had to figure out one of the challenges was who killed Strawberry and how many suspects there were. So that one they had to look up. So, and then 6, did everyone get 6 right? So 6 they got 6 no one really knew. Like literally I tell them the total amount of dice shown in the board game episode graphic. So all they have to do is go back to the episode where we did the board game, look at the graphic for that episode and see that there was dice and the dice was 12, but nobody bothered looking that up. Um and then there was one like how much the limo cost and the tea party. No one got that one right, and all they had to do was look it up. Um yeah, like all these they could have if they took their time, they could have looked it up. But no one looked it up. Squeak did the best. Squeak got
The funny thing
25.
is, like, there's a reason that the only time I win immunity challenges is when I play on Survivor, because I listen to some challenges like this, and I would have won this immunity challenge. I would have got every question right, because like, just look it up, and like, the thing about like this challenge is actually seems really easy, and it's kind of embarrassing because the final four immunity challenge, basically the most important immunity challenge. The fact that they got some of these questions wrong is embarrassing, actually.
And
Everybody
like
involved.
and like I knew the quotes were going to be hard. I like knew the quotes were going to be hard and they were going to do terrible on the quotes because it's not like a concrete answer. So I wanted something that was like a concrete answer that they could get like a 100% if they looked it up, tried, and did their best. And no one really did it. And then I did something fun for the third part, whereas I asked the jury a game, like an app game they could play. And the jury must have hated them because they picked the world's hardest game, which everybody got done in less than 5 minutes. And poor Squeak Just gave up. I don't know why he gave up, but he gave up.
I'm not sure what happened, but when I was a little kid playing that game, I had a hard time just making it past level 1. Now I
Hooray.
made it past level 1 super easy. And so I'm not sure if if I was just a little kid or not, but is the world's hardest game really the world's hardest game? Like I feel like I think I got to like level 5 or 6 in like an hour and a half or 2 hours if you on call. Like it took me dying like a lot, but
You're like,
you can
this
get
is
it
the
done.
hardest game ever. And I'm like, okay. And you're like, I don't even think they can get to level 3. And then all of a sudden you're like, they're like, they did it under 5 minutes. Oh, we have company for our.
I think I did it. I think I did it in like 15 or 20 minutes. Then I realized the challenge should be scored differently, but you went with the first thing I said, and I was like, "Oh, actually, it should be scored this way." You
Well,
still went with the
this
first
is
way.
the problem, Cooks. Like, if the reason why we are friends is because I tune out 90% of what you say. Otherwise, I would lose my mind. So that's on you.
Yeah,
We
that's
have a new.
why I wasn't mad because I don't think it ruins the challenge because even if they get it under 5 minutes, like it's still who's the fastest, so it doesn't mean the challenge wasn't hard because they still need to beat each other.
Okay, so we have. So when it comes down to it, the winner of the challenge is who, Cooks? Their first immunity win all season.
Max won their first immunity challenge. I think it was their first.
I think it was
I'm
their
not sure.
first too. He won his first immunity challenge, and
Are you
everybody.
sure it was their first?
No, somebody look that up. Hey, look,
I
we
don't know
have.
how you looked it up. Where do you keep track of that?
There's a whole spreadsheet. There's a whole spreadsheet. But I really
That's
think
in the
this.
spreadsheet?
Yes, I feel like it was his. I feel like it was his first one, and we really thought that Trav was in trouble. We really thought Trav was in trouble. We felt Trav was going home. Um, but it didn't. Well, we thought
Yeah,
that Trav was
it
going to
was
go home.
Max's first.
We thought
I didn't think
Trav. We thought Trav was
I didn't
going
think
home, or there was going to be fire.
Trav was
And
going home.
you didn't think Trav. Well, I didn't think Trav was going home either. But it would depend on who was in fire with him. If it
I
was.
think that I think Trav beats anybody in fire. He's the best challenge player left. The only person that maybe could come close is Squeet. I I think Trav could beat Squeet anyway, and just in case of that, Trav had precautions. Thing about dangerous about Squeet is Squeet already won fire. He won it and he beat Nathan and Scott. And Scott's a big challenge piece, so see why that's a little bit scary.
Yeah, so we thought it might go fire.
Um,
We even got a fire making, challenge already, but we didn't end up
but
having to use
the
it.
way Trav and Max played this Final Four was never witnessed a Final Four like this ever in any org, and the way they played it was top tier Survivor gameplay, and basically this it was a masterpiece.
Oh, yes, yes. Um yes, like this was brilliant. Like the way it went down was like it could not have gone better for Trav because first of all, they they Saren thinks that she is working with Trav and Max. Although, like the other round, she was working with Squeet. So I don't know. I feel like they were the wild because Max, Trav, and Saren were originally the Wile E. Coyote ones. So she felt that she was with them. And when it came to final four, she voted with them, but then was tricked. How
Well,
was she
here's the
tricked?
thing. Here's the thing, though. Have no idea what happened to SEren. Maybe she could tell us at some point. I was very shocked that she wasn't voting for Trav because that's all that she was talking about doing in the final four at the final
Yeah,
five.
because
Like she
she
was
said she didn't want to go to the end with Trav.
at the final five, kept telling Squeet that, and I think she mentioned in her confessional, I could be wrong, but she was talking about she didn't want to go to the end with Scott or Trav because she couldn't win. And then in the final four, it was like she completely forgot about that. And so I don't know
Yeah.
what happened there.
Let me
Um,
see.
and she like, Sweet was like, yeah, let's vote Trav out. And in the tribal questions, I asked Trav lost immunity, and I'm like, Trav is by far the biggest target, and if he gets through this round, it's because of his bond with Max, and it's going to be fire, is what I thought. Um, However, like I asked Trav how much our alliance is important at the final four, and how much is it just voting out the biggest target. Here's what I think. I think at the final four, alliances kind of don't matter anymore, and you should be voting out the biggest target. Trav's not going to say that because he is the biggest target. And so he says, oh, yeah, at the final four, alliances still matter. And I have this alliance with SEren and Max, and we're going to stick together because I stuck to them and loyalty and all this other stuff. And we're voting out Squeak because that's what we should be doing because that's what good people do or whatever.
Yes, I'm trying to bring up the Alliance chat where is it this
And
one?
that's the dirty thing about it is that Trav was like at the honorable thing and like publicly saying like I'm going to stick to my alliances because you stuck to my alliance. But he's just talking out of his ass because he's not sticking with his alliance with SEren. He's just lying.
Yeah, so this is what went down between Max, Seren, and Trap. So Saren says, period. It was so obvious. Scott didn't have an idol. I cannot. And then Travis like, slay AF. And then when Max wins immunity, Saren says, Max ate that. You love how I speak teenage. Congrats. I think it is time to solidify this top three, y'all. Like, this would be iconic. And it says, and Trav says, not Squeak trying to get me to flip. And then Seren's like, please. And Trav says, as if he didn't just vote Max last round. It's not that. He's just going to be chaotic, I fear. And then Trav says, I also fear he would win. The entire Babs tribe would vote him. Exactly. Please, everybody who would vote him, yeah. So they're thinking that the jury is all full of Buster and Babs, and would vote for him. And then Trav says, at least the jury sort of hates us all equally. And Saren says, I just think this top three would be so iconic, the storyline of it all. And that's because they're all three Wile E. Coyotes. Um, why did we?
What's so good? Sorry, go ahead.
But I don't even feel like Trav talked Saren into it. I feel like Saren. I don't think they had to try very hard to get Saren to not vote Trav.
Yeah, it's like I think Saren just changed her mind after the last vote. She just changed her mind.
I mean, maybe she did the comment about who was in the jury, made it seem like they would vote for uh, Squeak to win if they could, because I mean, maybe that comment. I mean, I can't really see what made her flip.
Yeah, I think she just changed her mind. I think like what she was saying also wasn't talking from what you read about winning the game. She was talking that the final three would be iconic. And here's the thing about SEren. Um, if SEren doesn't win this season, I feel like she still wins the season because of the records that she's breaking. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
in a way, SEren's the biggest winner this season. In a way.
Okay, can I be totally honest with you? Like, I would not have let her play a third season if she came in second and then came in fifth her All Star season. Because I did not remember her coming in fifth the All Star season. And she
You
had
didn't remember her being in the All Star season.
stop
Thing
it.
is,
What happens if she's listening to this? All right. So
I didn't remember her being there either, and I was playing. The thing is, Rin coming in fourth, he, like, statistically, we could talk about, everybody has their own opinions, so we can't base things off of opinion. But statistically, Rin is the greatest three-time player of all time on this server.
yes, because I think the only other
But like
three-time player is Eggy.
once she got to the final four, her average placement of her 3 seasons is 3.666. So like she could go to fire against Trav, which would be cool or whatever. It's like she already won. Like you know what I mean? Like she kind of won. At least if I were SEren, I don't even know how upset I'd be about being voted out the final four because it feels like she won more than the actual winner won.
Mm-hmm. And that
Like
brings
she's more legendary than the actual winner, like in a way.
yes,
So
I totally agree, and I don't think we should talk about what happened in jury too much. But I will say that she went into Ponderosa proud of herself. She says, I'm iconic, because I think we did say something about her like being a survivor legend. Exactly what you said. She, has the best, three-time winner placement. She went to Ponderosa proud of her game and happy. And then we had Scott and we had Chase in jury that they just went off on her, saying she was a terrible player, all this stuff, and SEren tried to defend herself. So I, I don't know if we should get into too much details, but basically that's what happened. And when all was said and done, Chase didn't really feel like he did anything wrong. Scott did say that I think maybe it's because he's an older player that he doesn't want to be treated any differently. But when someone's 16, I'm going to look out for them. And it's just what I do. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I look out for my younger players and make sure they're all right. So when there was a big fight in Tribal, you shut it down. We dealt with SEren. We tried to make everything better. And Scott said
yeah,
later that exactly what I said. Like, when somebody is not expecting to be in Ponderosa, like Scott knew he was going to Ponderosa. He knew it. He prepared himself. SEren didn't think she was going to Ponderosa and then arrived there all, happy and proud of herself. And she had the feels, you know what I mean? That's what Scott said. She had the feels, and then all they did was pounce on her and make her feel, as SEren said, sad. But they're all good now. We had a talk and everything's good and they're all getting along in jury chat. Oh, Jury chat. Why do people like we either have like people not talking jury at all or we have like people having fist fights in jury. Like can't there be like a happy medium?
Yeah, and the thing about um, they say they didn't want to get into it too much, but you kind of got into it, so I'll add my 2 cents. Like Scott was saying that, like since we're playing Survivor, everybody should be treated equally amongst their age. Do you think if this was the real Survivor TV show, and you have this person in their around their mid 20s, and you have this 50-something-year-old man hang up on a 16-year-old on the beach, do you really think that the fans watching it wouldn't hate the two older players?
I also
And I was like,
feel I also feel like
I was telling them like it's easy to do stuff like that when there's like a screen separating you.
exactly,
But
exactly.
I told them you got to think about that. I like there's an actual person behind that. God said, I don't give a fuck. Um, so Scott does not give a fuck that there was a teenager that he was talking to. He thinks that if this happened on Real Survivor, everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, Scott's like a really awesome guy for saying all that stuff to that teenager on Real Survivor." Like, no, the fans would he would get hated. Like, he would get a lot of like. If you know anything about Survivor fans, if you have a bad reputation, they will not let you live it down, and you will be like harassed online. That's what would happen to Scott if that was Real Survivor, and
I
they were saying that stuff on Real Survivor. Like
eh,
they would get off a lot. Wouldn't get off as easy as they got off on here. So I think like Scott is wrong.
I also feel like what you said about the person behind the screen. So if we had those two men and this 16-year-old girl and them coming at her, they would have seen her face. They would have seen how upset she was and they would say, "Oh crap, we need to give her some space." But because it was on the computer, because it was on they had the screen between them because SEren was trying to protect herself and make comments back. They couldn't see how much they upset her. You know what I mean? So maybe it isn't all their fault. Maybe they just couldn't tell how much they upset her because they weren't actually with her and they you know what I mean? It's the world of the internet and talking with somebody with screens.
Yeah. Anyway, about like the final four, what's really interesting about it is like Trav played excellently. Max had a part on it too, but it benefits Trav the most, so I'm going to focus on Trav. Sorry, Max, you know you did have a part of it. And Trav super loyal, to the point where it's so locked in, and the worst that it is fire. And what Trav played the final five so well that he prepared for the final four vote in the final five, because winning that immunity was important. That I think if Trav didn't win immunity there, I think that the ultimate play would be to vote out Trav there. I don't know if it would have happened. I actually don't think it would have happened unless Scott won immunity. Um, but maybe it would have happened. Wouldn't maybe Trav still would have stayed because SEren thought the final three would be iconic. But anyway, that was so important there because he's at worst it's fire, and then at worst it's fire, right? Who won the fire making challenge that had this underdog story and a few supporters, even though it's not as much as Trav? Sweet. So what does
Yes.
Trav do? Trav prepares to not go to fire with Squeak at the final five. He's like, at this point, maybe you could say that Squeak was a bigger threat than SEren. So Trav cuts Squeak down at the final five. So SEren was a bigger threat than Squeak. Well, what he attempted to do was to make Squeak look worse. So he didn't have to go to fire against Squeak, and he could go against somebody else in fire that was a lot easier to beat in fire. Like SEren, so like the risk of like he made the risk of going against Squeak in the final three a lot less that round, so he doesn't have to go against Squeak in fire this round. And then the final four, he plays into their alliance with SEren, so they don't have to go to fire at all, and we get our a 2-1-1, which has never even happened on real Survivor US, where Squeak votes for Trav, thinking SEren will too. But SEren votes for Squeak, thinking that they're going to the final three together. And Max and Trav stab SEren in the back in a 2-1-1 vote. Like, this final five was masterfully played by Trav, where there was no missteps. And he had this final four figured out at the final five. Like, little decisions like that were all a part of his game in the final four.
I cannot wait to read his speech. His speech is going to be up in like a half hour. I can't wait to read it.
The thing about SEren is like SEren is a player. Like, he's a legend now. Going into the season, I wasn't that high on her because the thing about it is like some people don't put. We finally got the placements on SEren. I think yesterday. Some people don't keep up with that on production. You know, like Straw is like superhuman when it comes to this org. She can't do everything, so she gives people a job, and she expects it to be done, as she says, and then people don't do it. So sometimes it's hard to tell what the placements are. Like, I kind of forgot SEren played All Stars, and Straw kind of did too, which is why a part of the reason why SEren got casted this time, because her placements weren't updated like next to her name.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, SEren, like at the start of the season, SEren got 2 strikes total this season, one for self-voting, which isn't great, and SEren plays this under the radar game where the first time she played, I don't know what the vote count was, but she didn't have the social capital to win. But the thing that SEren can do, that she's proven she can do time and time again, which made her impressive. Like, if it's just one time, it's kind of like whatever. Since she did it 3 times in a row, this is hard to do. Like, for instance, Brandon couldn't do this. Brandon had like an under the radar game where he just followed. Brandon isn't near as a good player as SEren. I'm just saying this. Brandon had no chance to win, yet he gets eliminated at the final 7. He couldn't even be dragged to the end as a GOAT. SEren, like, there's outwit, outplay, and outlast. SEren has shown she can basically outlast. Like, if you just throw her in a cast, like it's an all-star cast, her first season cast, which is a high caliber cast, she's shown that she can make a deep run with ease if you just throw her into any cast. Like, if we just threw her in again, like for a 4th time, like she would probably make it like just as far again. Like, she has proven that she can outlast. Like, that is what she's good at. She can make a deep run basically at ease.
So I think what makes SEren the best player ever, well, okay, maybe not what makes her a good Survivor player is that she has awesome social skills. She talks to everybody, but her threat level is never high because she is always like talking and joking, and like when she was going to get voted out one time, she made like posters like "Don't vote SEren," little joke kind of things like that where, oh, this person's just fun. They don't really care, when other players like Scott, he can't hide his threat level, but she can by being crappy at challenges and joking about how crappy she is at challenges. But she knew where like all the votes were. Like, she was talking to this side, she was talking to that side. She was getting all the information and just using it to her benefit. So I don't think she was a, GOAT at all. I think she played the game hard.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, like, What was it? Uh,
Uh-oh.
uh,
Uh-oh. Your train
my
of
brain is
thought.
shutting down. My brain is shutting down because I'm sick. Like I am pretty sick. I feel like my
Ah.
brain just like got like a fever as soon as I was talking and it just wiped my brain.
Well, that's all
Like
right.
okay, I have something to say though. Yeah, like this is what I was gonna say. Unlike 2 seasons, there's no prize money for winning. Like I've won, and he's the win. Okay, Trav hasn't won yet. Um, and he might not win. I think Trav is going to win, and Trav would be a great winner, and all this stuff. Um, and he's gonna be like when you win, you're legendary. Okay, so Trav is gonna be a legend if he wins, and I think he played a great winning game. In my opinion, not as much as a legend as SEren. Like SEren technically lost this season, but like it's like, what does that really even mean? Like, she doesn't get any less money than Trav. Like, I feel like SEren kind of won the season. Like, I would be satisfied. Like, if I were SEren, like, I don't even know how much more satisfied I would be by coming in first than in fourth.
Yeah, I mean, she went to Ponderosa. She was happy and proud of her game, and I was happy for her. I'm not happy she got voted out, but I was happy that she was happy until she
I
wasn't
guess it
happy.
would be pretty. It would be pretty legendary if SEren did win. It's like an average placement after playing 3 times, and your average placement is like 3.5. Like, do you think if the only person that could compete is that if Logan played a third time and he made another deep run, he could he could get like a higher average placement than SEren. But could Logan do it again? I think his front level might be too high. And when we're talking about you, then Logan comes into the conversation. That's how you know you're a legend because Logan might be the biggest legend of Survivor.
Yes, yes, and
And I feel
Seren.
like SEren kind of put her in the same box, like in the same like SEren's like kind of like in the same category of legends as Logan.
I agree. I agree. Go, Seren. All right, since
And
your
so
brain.
we can like now that we're done with the eliminations, final three: Squeet, Max, and Trav. We can haven't only Max has put into his speech so far, and a few questions have been asked, and nobody's really been answering them yet. They're still preparing. But I want to hear you break down each of the finalists, Strawn. I want to hear your opinion about their chances to win. I want to hear your thoughts.
All right, I feel like everybody that Trav is definitely the front runner. I feel like he is the way he has talked all game. I feel like even if he's not that great of a writer, that he will be able to go into those jury questioning channels and just blow everybody away. Like pretty much just tell them that, his vote, a vote for Trav is only the the only way to go. I feel like he's going to give Scott Scott's the lawyer, but I feel like Trav's gonna give Scott a run for his money because he's gonna be swaying everybody to vote him. I've heard this and I don't like this because games have been won and lost over a pity vote. And I heard like 2 or 3 people saying they were going to give a pity vote to Squeak And I really dislike that.
Here's the thing, like, Trav, in my opinion, I'd be voting for Trav to win. I feel like Trav, as a player, strategically, he was dominant all season. Had 3 major flips. Socially, he was great. Everybody thought he was fun and awesome. Ace even had a crush on him at one point before they were on the same tribe, and Chase figured it out that Trav was gay. Um, like, social game was really good. People thought he was doing the Don Goose thing where everybody thought he was fun and goofy, which he is. He had this cutthroat nature where he is not a player that's going to sit on his hands. He will make a move. And he made big moves this season. He basically was on top the whole season. Like, when the game would shift, he would shift with the game and be with the power people. When he got targeted at the final 12, he was aligned with the Grannies and Maxes to protect him when that old alliance turned on him. So, like, he, like, played, like, an excellent game all around. And, like, moves like convincing Dongush to flip basically handed him the keys to run the rest of the game. Like, I think that I would put Nova above him, but I think if Trav wins, he's the best. Like, he's up there with Nova in terms of the new era winners. I think he's right up there. This is one of the best winning games I think we would ever see.
And Trav has said that this is his second org. So that's funny.
Trav is also good. Like he checks off all the boxes. He was even good at immunity challenges. He won 3 of them. Win
Yeah.
3 immunity challenges. You're a challenge beast, in my opinion. And like,
all right,
the other 2 are good too. Max and Squee aren't bad. But I think a lot of the problem with Max is that cutting Trav at Final Four would have been great for Max, because a lot of the things that Max does, Trav can take credit for, and what you want to do is differentiate yourself. You don't
Yes,
want to
and
split credit. You don't want to split credit for somebody else. Max took out Trav at Final Four. Max
he would have
could
won the
take all
game.
he could
He would have won
take all the credit for Trav. Everything they did as a duo, he would get all the credit for. You can't
Yes.
give it to Trav.
And the one thing about Max is that, yes, him and Trav work together, but Max is quieter. So Trav is more out there. Trav is more in your face. So people say, oh, Trav did that. You know, and they
Yeah.
don't see what Max did.
The thing about it is, after reading some things, how Max has been answering some questions.
Yeah, so you're going to talk.
Max thinks he played a worse game than he did. And
Yes, yes.
during the Final 5, he said publicly, like I talked to him about this, publicly in front of the jury, which is not a good thing to say. Like, he said that he's basically done with the game and it's worn him out. And the stress of the game, I think, wore him down to the point where he thinks he played a worse game than he actually did. Like, sure, like, he played a fire-making idol or whatever. He played idols wrong. The thing is, Max, like, game went your way. There was no way you could have played an idol right. Like, if the votes go your way, you can't really play an idol right.
Yes, yes. And
But yeah, he wasted an idol, but, like, how could he have used it right if things just go your way?
yeah. Oh, so
And
what Max
the
did
thing
say,
is, like, all right, go ahead.
so maybe you can comment on this too. He was saying that Max was saying his social game was better than Trav's, because when they swapped and Max was on the granny tribe with all the grannies. The Porky Pig tribe. I don't even know what it was, because they were all full of grannies. That Max used his social skills. He ingratiated himself with the grannies. The grannies loved him. and he worked on that relationship. So when Merge came, they pretty much adopted Trav into their alliance, and that was all because of Max, which I think is
Honestly,
true. What do you
Max,
think?
that is true. That is true. Max played a great game. Like, paper, he's swap screwed. And we know that when on paper you're swap screwed, you're somebody like Kai, who looks at the game and says, "Oh, I'm
Yeah,
swap
unless your
screwed."
name is Ty.
Like Ty's the example where he looks at the game and he's like, "Oh, I'm the only person from my original tribe on this tribe. I'm going to quit the game." Like just like that,
hmm
like a dumbass. Like a,
Did you just call a player a dumbass on our
like like
broadcast?
like a complete loser. There's people like Max that are completely like don't think that way. They are just like, "Oh, I'm not a pathetic loser. I'm swap screwed, but I'm gonna play a great game and set myself up to get to the final three right here." Max's social play was so good that like there are these little things where we're like at the time we're like, "Oh, that's a dumb mistake." Telling everybody about your idol to the point where you have to get rid of it. It's a dumb mistake. It helped him a hell of a lot. So I don't know if that you can really say it's a mistake because the grannies are looking at him like, "Oh, Max isn't really a threat. He's just kind of a cute, fun guy." And I really like him, and we get along, and we stay up all night playing Roblox, and like Chase really liked Max and everything, and to the point where they made this alliance chat where it's like grannies and their adopted grandchild. Like
Yes.
Max wasn't even like look at it and you're like, oh, there's four grannies and Max is at the bottom. That's not what happened.
Nope.
Max became like it'd be one thing to be at the bottom of an alliance after being swap screwed, being ingratiated with these four. He didn't even do that. He took a step further and he was at the core of their alliance with Brandon and Tony being at the bottom. Like he was in the top three.
Yep. And then he made room for Trav too, which I feel if the things went differently, then I feel like neither of them would have been. We probably would have had a final tribal
Yeah,
council of all grannies.
it really helped Trav out. Final 12 happened when I was on my trip, so I wasn't following things too closely. So I don't know how much. I give a lot of the credit based on what I saw in the pre-merge to Max and their previous relationship on the last tribe with Trav working with the grannies. Maybe you could comment more. Did Trav have? Was it all Max that made that alliance of seven work that saved Trav at the final 12, or did Trav have a part in that as well?
I feel like I, f- I feel like if they let Trav go, and I feel like they would have lost Max as an ally if Trav went and they knew they could have saved him with that extra vote. I feel like I feel like they had Trav's doing too because I think Scott has even said that he probably would have been an entirely different game if he just let Trav go. And obviously every little change changes the whole dynamic of what happens in the game. But he said he should have saved his vote, let Trav go, saved his vote, and he would have, it would have been much better for him. I mean, who even knows? But I think Trav but I think Dongush really Dongush was working with Max and Trav, and I think Dongush was going to split with the grannies, and he was going to split and be with them, with Trav and Max. And Dongush talked Scott into using the extra vote to save Trav for Dongush's game, not for Scott's game. And Scott was like, "Oh, I was busy at a softball game, blah blah blah. I did what Dongush wanted and used the vote." So I think there was a lot going on that vote.
I feel like we can give most. I think most of the credit does go to Max because I feel like actually Max played a great game. I'm going to be real. Max played a great game, especially talking about it with you.
It's
And I do think it's
overshadowed.
one of those.
It's
I do
overshadowed.
think it's overshadowed, but like I feel like I don't know if Trav could have done it without Max. I feel like Max was a very valuable part of that duo. I feel like they were perfect together.
Yes, because once they
Um,
merged, if it wasn't for Max, he would have just been another number for the grannies to get out.
yeah, Max was really great at making those connections. I think his social game is one of the best parts of his whole game. Trav was the part where he
All
knows
right.
when to make a move to cut people. So I feel like Trav is more of like the strategic part of the duo, and Max is the person that can bring
Wait
the
a second.
people
Wait a
in.
second. Wait a second. So we are not even touching on when Max had his, as the teenagers call, crash out on Dongush and Scott after they were lied about the vote and how he just turned a blind eye. I'm not working with you guys. And I mean, he went for someone with good social skills to being like, to hell with everybody. I'm not ever working with you again. And I feel like
Feel
he can.
like here's the thing about that though is like yeah, that's kind of bad. It's like not the worst either because the thing about Max, I endear them to Max is that he's genuine.
Yep.
Like you like and I feel like they didn't like Dongush whatever, they didn't hate Max, like they understood where he was coming from. Max has been this genuine person the whole time. And so Max went straight to Dongush's face. He wasn't sneaky about it. He says, "I'm against you now." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
really didn't make Max upset. I think that didn't make Dongush upset. I think Dongush understood. So the thing about there's not really like it's not like strategically good, but the thing about Max is that he's genuine, and a certain person can appreciate somebody being genuine to them. Sometimes it hurts more for somebody to be sneaky and stab you in the back rather than a person coming to your face and says, "Okay, so I'm against you now. Now we're going to be against each other."
Yes. And I feel like this podcast is an hour and a half, and I feel it might be
I know
time.
it's a little bit long. It is the finale podcast, and I do want to talk about Squeak, and unless you have somewhere to be, of course.
Nope. We're going to talk about Squeak, which I feel like if I was going to say something
We
about
talked about
Squeak,
Trav.
he's a
Talked about Max.
cockroach. Like
Talked
they
about
tried to
Trav. We
get him
talked about
out,
Max. Yep.
and he
Squeak.
wasn't going.
Thing about Squeak is that Squeak, at the very start, I had my eye on Squeak. You can hear it in the earlier episodes of the podcast where you were like, said Squeak, it's like kind of whatever to me. And I was like, he's kind of whatever, but like in his original tribe, he was in a solid spot. He was in like alliances with like Nathan and stuff. Like he looked at him and he's like, okay, he's in a solid spot in the game. He's not the leader. He's not on the bottom. He's the core of the majority alliance, I think. He was kind of solidly placed. And then at the swap, we like he's not like the best strategist ever. But that's kind of what's impressive about him. He's kind of good at challenges. Kind of middle of the road. Then he's middle of the road. Usually somebody in the middle of the road doesn't go through as much as Squeak did and get to the end like Squeak does.
Yes, I
Are you still
feel like.
there?
Yep, I feel like.
Squeak went through a whole bunch, and that adds a whole lot to his game.
Oh,
And
because Don Gush was talking about him and his and Don Squeet's underdog game and how he really admired that. But I don't know if the underdog game is going to win over Trav's game.
the thing about Squeak's game is that Squeak has made himself look worse and worse near in the end. Squeak like played an underdog game, but there's a whole lot of luck in it. It's normal in Survivor, but there was also skill. But there was rounds where it was luck. For instance, like it was bad luck in the in the swap where Squeak didn't do anything wrong to be targeted. It was bad luck. Soy spun a wheel to see who to vote out, and it landed on his name. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, I
so
remember
it was,
that.
so it was bad luck that got Squeak in trouble. Then it was good luck that Trav flipped and he survived in a 5-4 vote. So the luck kind of cancels each other out because you're like, well, we didn't really. If Squeak got voted out, we would have been bummed out because we were like, Squeak didn't even do anything wrong and he was playing a fine game and he got voted out because somebody spun a wheel.
Yeah, that would have been
Got
terrible.
we got we got bad luck. His bad luck got canceled out with good luck, so I feel like that's pretty even, Steven. He's willing to go to Rock to the next vote. And then you have Squeak being the main target to be voted out by the majority alliance, seen as kind of like a threat, kind of. But then he wins the first two immunity challenges, kind of makes his frat bigger. But then they go with voting out. They were juggling at the final 11 for some reason, voting out Eric or Squeak. They decided to vote out Eric for some reason, majority besides Squeak. And then they're like, okay, now let's vote out Squeak. Then they were like, actually, let's blindside Tony because Squeak is how they say it's a perfect time to blindside somebody when there's an obvious vote like Squeak. Because then the non-obvious person doesn't see it coming. Like Tony didn't see it coming because Squeak was kind of like a big target, and they were like, "Oh, Squeak's such an obvious vote; he could go on an immunity run." That's a perfect time to blindside Tony, so he became the fake name and survived in an 8-2 vote. Then they decided to do another blindside with Nathan and Squeak becoming like a huge duo where they kind of like do things where they try to like have a fake vote, fake fights at tribal council to not seem as close as they are. So they're like playing the game where Squeak has like these allies that are with him, and other people don't see that. Like Dongush and whatever, they think Nathan's completely with them, but he doesn't realize that Nathan is more so with Squeak. And Chase gets blindsided. And then because Squeak's relationship with Nathan, Nathan had the fire making idol. Would get voted out at the final 8, but because Nathan gave him the fire making idol, which is saying that's luck, because Squeak didn't know that Nathan had the fire making idol, and that is true. But Squeak made the bond with Nathan that he's willing to save Squeak here when he could just let Squeak get voted out. And then skill comes in when Squeak dominated the free person fire making challenge. Squeak gets the swap used on him at final 7 when he's a big target again to even out the votes. And then the whole game gets changed that round with Dongush flipping, and then Dongush and Scott getting voted out. And then it was only recently that Squeak started to get like humiliated. And then because because Trav started to like embarrass Squeak in front of the jury, it kind of made him the person to drag to the end after the final 4. So the game is a roller coaster of good luck, bad luck, skill. It's something. Do you have anything to add to that? I was kind of jabbering while you were being quiet.
I feel like you used a whole lot of words, and I don't know how I could actually add anything to that. So I will agree. So maybe should we say
Yeah, we
goodbye?
can. Sure.
Well, now
I'm
you feel
kind of
like you're
tired. Like I've been getting more and more sick.
all right.
Podcast
Yeah.
goes on. Um,
Say
um
goodbye.
goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
We'll see you at the Survivor season finale, everybody.
Yay!
In the comment section,
Goodbye.
leave a comment under the video guessing who you think is gonna win. Um,
Bye,
talk
everybody.
to you later. And
Bye.
if you're right, Straw will um send you
Give you
feet
a
pics in
great
your
big
DM.
hug. No, I'm not saying feet pics.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
If you win, tell us your like bank information, and we'll send you $10.
Yep, that sounds about right. All right, where's that
Yeah.
goodbye song?
I was lying about the $10 thing. I'm not legally binded to that.
No. It's forever, forever, then stay strong. Two friends go together like melody and song. When I'm feeling blue, smile our way through. Near and far, forever, two friends, me and you. Special girls, very best of friends, side by side until the very end. What friends do on you. Two friends grow forever, forever they stay strong. Your friends grow together like melody and song. When I'm feeling
blue, you only smile
you
through.
far together, I'll be there for